because on Steam, there are people who play demos, and there are the vast majority of Steam players who do not, right? And so we're basically getting to treat the demo as this kind of like, it's basically a beta testing platform that also allows for this kind of marketing awareness, right? But we don't have to worry and be like, oh no, like literally everybody on Steam who would play it will have played it by the time we launch. Right.
Not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Yeah. Culturally, it won't happen.
Butterscotch shenanigans.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 556 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam, and I'm there teased.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is January 16th, 2020. Quick! Yeah. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about how things have been going with How Many Dudes and what our near kind of future plans are with that. And then we're going to talk about mobile strategy, because we've been talking about it a lot internally, and we thought, let's just make this conversation public. And we'll just talk about what we're thinking in terms of mobile for How Many Dudes and what our strategy is going to be.
Yeah, I think especially if you're a dev who's focusing on Steam and thinking about maybe doing mobile as like another avenue for getting some revenue, that's kind of the target person for this, I guess. That discussion coming up. So, yeah.
And also before we talk about the demo, I want to let people know that we've been chatting with Simon Carles over at Game Discover Co., which is a great resource for game devs to get information about just kind of trends in games, what's working, what's not working. They do pieces on individual games and devs and like interesting things that they're doing. It's all about like getting your game noticed and marketing and all that stuff. And so How Many Dudes caught his eye, and because it was trending on Steam throughout the winter sale kind of period. And so we've been kind of chatting, and he's put together an article that I think will be out around the time this episode airs. So
if it is, I'll try to get a link shoved into the description of this thing if it comes out in time.
So if we get that link, then go check that out, but you can probably just Google.
Yeah, just Google Game Discover Co. How Many
Discover Co. How Many Dudes? It'll probably be there. Yep. So the demo is kind of just cooking now. As we talked about last week, we expected that after kind of the initial fervor and all these waves of videos and influencers and whatever, that we would kind of get into some kind of a tail where it would be kind of plateauing and then kind of going down for a while until something happens. And so we're still in the discovery queue, and that's still pulling in a healthy number of at least wish lists. We're not sure what effect that's having on people playing the demo, like we talked about before.
You can't really differentiate causes
where people are coming from.
Things,
But we're chilling at about like 3,000 wish lists per day with the discovery queue currently. So again, just want to throw the numbers out for other devs. If that's what you're seeing, if that's what you've seen before, or if you're trying to get in the discovery queue, that's kind of what we are seeing. And our expectations.
Do you remember what we saw with Crashlands 2 when I was in discovery queue?
We had about half the traffic at from discovery queue with Crashlands 2, and so
a good wish list accumulation over that period.
We definitely did. I'm not sure if it was the same wish list rate. But we do have a lot more. We have basically twice the traffic. So the expectation is that discovery queue is probably going to turn off around the 20th or so. At least with Crashlands 2, it lasted 2 weeks. So we're waiting to see what happens when that fully turns off, and then we'll be in what we're referring to as the doldrums or the baseline, which is just like once the game is just chilling after all that activity, where's the wishlist rate going to be? And that's a big question for us.
No articles, no YouTubers, no discovery, just passive word of mouth and algorithmic minor exposure on Steam, and that'll be it. And
from a designed outcome standpoint, just for that full context too, our intention with the demo release was to get enough traffic and visibility on the store to hopefully trigger the discovery queue.
Yes. It's all worked out beautifully somehow.
It's all worked out. I'm still baffled that we made a plan where most of the results are outside of our control, and then it seems to have worked.
It is the first time that has happened. So
it's the first time that's happened.
And so what we're working on then is we're working toward kind of that next big burst of exposure, like we talked about last week, which is we've got 8 new languages that we're adding, and we also have been taking player feedback for the past month since the demo came out, and we have a big update coming, and we're going to try to get it into players' hands for testing this weekend as we're recording this, and then we should have that new patch out shortly after this episode comes out. So kind of probably on like Friday the 23rd, something like that. And that update not only adds languages, we got a ton of balance updates. We fully reworked a couple of the dudes that were, not working that well or weren't that interesting. We've got I'll just say we got a boss fight. We got a boss fight. I won't say anything more about it, but it's something.
Yeah. So the goal then is once that is out, then we can actually do the next round of influencer pushes, but on the international level. Right. Yeah. So the question is just like, can you keep it going? Can you keep on like kind of popping these things up and making stuff happen? And so we'll report on that as it goes.
And then right after that, we got some media events, and then right into the Steam Next Fest. So it's kind of this update coming out then kicks off sort of like a 4-week push of more marketing. But once we get this update out, we're probably gonna retreat into our dev cave for a bit. Yeah. And just leave the demo to kind of do its thing. We'll fix it, and we'll do maybe some like little balance tweaks if necessary. But otherwise,
we'll be listening to feedback and seeing if something about the demo like stopped hitting as well as it did because of a change we made or whatever. We'll be keeping an eye on that so we can make sure the demo stays really good. But yeah, no content updates that as far as we're planning.
Yeah. And then as we get closer to launch, we'll be updating the demo, with new features or new kind of systems or frameworks or whatever. Because our hope is to keep the demo open post-launch because it's such a great tool for people to check out the game and get interested, right? And so we do want to keep maintaining that. But yeah, we'll probably enter into kind of like a down period where we won't be doing too much with the demo while we just work on the full game. So that kind of then brings us to launch strategy.
Yeah.
And we did put up a FAQ last week. Got some information about when we're thinking about launching and what platforms and stuff like that. So our target for launch is we're saying by end of June, but as we mentioned when we talked about Grand Theft Auto 6 last week, no game dev actually knows how long anything is going to take, and any deadline that's like more than 2 months away is a wish.
I think importantly, if you look at the scope of how many dudes, June is effectively as far away as the beginning of development, and so a lot can happen in that time.
Well, how many dudes is also weird because it's like it kind of is launchable right now, right? And that's very different from our past titles where like everything had to finally come together, and so
we had to finish the story or whatever.
And with this one, it's kind of a matter of like we could launch it at any time. So what do we think should be the launch thing? And it gives us more flexibility to decide like, we really need to get this thing out. So even though it's not exactly what we wanted for the launch, let's just go, right? So we do have more flexibility with this than other titles, but still everything has to line up because a launch is a different thing than because so much of what we're doing with How Many Dudes is trying to discover / prove that all the old wisdom about how do you talk about a game that isn't launched yet is stuff we can throw away and start fresh. Just be open about what we're doing, talk about it, and get stuff out fast without a lot of fanfare and get that to work, right?
Just let the game speak for itself.
Now, that's working so far for the pre-launch stuff. I do not believe that same strategy works for launch. Launch is still, that's an event
thing
that happens, right? And
it's not going to work for every game,
And we'll work for every type of game. How Many Dudes is designed for that strategy.
Yeah. So we're going to, our plan then for launch is we're aiming for Steam, Google Play, and the App Store as definite platforms. We are exploring other possibilities as well, but
those may impact the actual launch date.
Yeah, those are all up in the air. When I say other possibilities, I mean potentially consoles or whatever else. But nothing is locked in on that, and we have decisions to make, right? Because, like Adam said, that'll postpone the launch if we try to do a simultaneous launch on all these platforms or whatever. So we'll have to kind of just try to see what we think is best. But on the mobile side, we're having a lot of interesting internal conversations about how to do it because Steam is different from mobile, and mobile offers some different opportunities in Steam through things like Google Play Pass and Apple Arcade, right?
It has a very different culture of expectations from the player base, but also just what the stores are designed to do. Like Steam is designed to sell games that you buy, right?
Mhm.
The mobile stores are designed to get games into your hands in which you can spend infinite money, right? That's
Yeah, those two
very
different
different
starting
goals.
points mean that there's a lot of different ways that those systems work. That if you don't have the flexibility to to manage it, then you can't quite meet people where they are in that particular space, right? So I'll just kind of outline like our big goals here with our approach to not just mobile, but frankly any additional platform besides Steam, which is, as Seth was saying, we're trying to figure out a way to make it so that we can essentially maintain some level of like open development if we're on a platform. And if not, or even if so, keep our overall like build pipeline and overall infrastructure stuff very simple. So we don't have to do a lot of like extra work or like duplicate, builds and stuff like that to manage different versions across all these different platforms and things like that. We've done a lot of that in the past, and it's very complicated. We can do it, and we're very good at it, but we don't want to do it if we don't have to, right? And then the additional stuff is mostly about being able to take advantage of stuff that exists in those spaces that we've not traditionally been able to take advantage of. And what I mean by that is, as Adam was saying, the expectations on mobile are largely about just getting a game first, right? Trying a game first, and then spending money in it later, not just paying up front for it. And as we
if
saw,
somebody they see a price tag on a mobile game, they're just out. And I think it was like with our games that we had, because we had some games that were paid on mobile at the beginning, and then we made them free. You literally see a 1,000x number of people playing the game when it goes, even if it's $1. Like the difference between $1 and free in terms of number of players is 1,000 times. So,
yeah, and like with how many dudes, a big part of our approach is and has been that if someone hears about it, sees it, that they can go check it out, right? Because we think it has a lot of that like word of mouth potential, and it seems to have. I mean, we got our friends who are saying that like Adam, one of your friends, just sent a note and was like, "Oh, my lawyer is playing how many dudes now?" Like the number of people who we've gotten those weird stories from were like, "Oh yeah, I started playing it, and my whole house is playing it now."
When I keep hearing from people too who we know, but who discovered how many dudes through like all these big streamers and stuff, right? Who then later on at some point discover, because we don't actually really advertise it as a Butterscotch game in the game, right?
And we have our splash screen on it.
We don't have any of that in there.
Totally
so
quick,
that at some point they would like realize, they'd be like, "Who made this?" They'd be like, "Holy shit, this is the Butterscotch Shenanigans crew." So yeah, it's been. Well, I think the other thing too about the you can think about this too with like the multiplayer. There's that big thing that people try to do with multiplayer games, right? Where they're like, well, if you buy a multiplayer game, it sucks by yourself. So you want somebody else to play it, but now you have to convince them to buy it, right? But if somebody can like somehow play for free as long as somebody owns it, or if you can think of another model,
or if it's just a free play game,
or if it's a free play game, then all of a sudden you remove that barrier, right? And you can think about that outside of multiplayer too, where because let's say a whole bunch of people in a household or in a friend group like discover how many dudes, right? Most people wouldn't want to buy it necessarily. They'll want to go give it a shot and be like, "Oh, we all get to have fun joking about it, talking about it," right? And then maybe like 10% of those people will be like, "Oh, but I love this though. I'm going to buy this," right? And so having that accessibility for like the main game to allow that word of mouth, that easy access where you can just have it. So
it's important to us, like
inside,
yeah. And so when we're looking at mobile, then we're trying to figure out, okay, in the past what we've done is we've just said, our games are premium games, and so rather than try and figure out some mechanism by which to do like either a free to try or like a fully free play sort of game, we're just going to say it just is what it is. We're going to change the price a bit so that the price at least like is lower, more in line with mobile expectations. And that's basically where we've parked it for literally like a decade.
Yeah, as we mentioned a few episodes back, like we're always ice skating uphill, like the mobile stores. Essentially, they loudly proclaim "fuck premium games." Like we're not going to support them. We have no features to make it easy to sell them. We're going to push really hard on exposing free things, and even the features they add, where they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like people can what is it like pre-register or whatever, right?" I think on Google Play has that, right? Pre-registration.
And both stores have.
They both have it in some form, but in the case of like the App Store, you actually have to like pre-purchase the game.
Yep.
Or rather, you pre-commit to have your credit card charged on the day the game launches, which is very different from a Steam wishlist.
Yes.
Right, a Steam wishlist is you saying like, oh yeah, I might be interested.
Well,
let me
it's
let
a
me know when it comes
pre-order
out.
versus a wish list, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And importantly, once your launch date comes, anybody who maybe was interested in it, but like maybe were like, I don't have the money right now. I have like $10 or whatever to buy Crashlands 2 on launch day. I'm going to turn this off. You don't have that like bucket of interested people who were interested at some point. You don't have that.
It happens only for launch.
one time.
And
And
that's
It's the same thing with Google,
yeah,
actually.
Same with Google.
pre-registration.
Yeah, with pre-registration. Yeah, pre-registration. It's like if the game is free and somebody pre-registers, then when you launch
It'll
the
download.
game, it just downloads right onto their device. And if it's a premium game, it doesn't.
Yeah, it just gives them
Right?
an alert that like, hey, it's available right now. But again, if they're like, I
It's
don't
like
have
a
money
push
for it right now,
notification, basically, right?
yeah, then they're like, okay, and then they forget about it forever. So
neither mobile store. Neither mobile store is meant for selling games. They're meant for getting people to download free games
Yes.
and then, let's say, spending a lot of money within the game somehow. Or whatever.
and so like, in the case of Crashlands 2, we set up pre-registration, which on Google Play doesn't say anything about price, which is a fascinating difference because I remember we had like tens of thousands of pre-registrations for Crashlands 2 on the Google Play side, and we had like a couple thousand pre-orders on the Apple side, right? Because again, like the Apple side, you have to pledge your money, and you know what the price is going to be. On the Google side, you're just like, this looks cool, and there's no.
So you got like 10
mention about
times
prices.
the number of people on Google participating in that
Right.
system.
But then when it comes to day one, the conversion then of those people on the mobile side, on the Google Play side, ends up being nothing, right?
Yeah.
So we also saw, with Crashlands 2, despite the game universally having like double the playtime, being overall like even better liked than the original in terms of like new player experience, stuff like that, the store, like the overall performance of it on mobile was like 10% ish, I think, of what it was.
Launch,
back in
it was
2016.
10%. And it was different between the two. It was significantly worse on both stores. It was more worse on the App Store.
Yes.
Relative to 2016.
to where it was.
Relative to so
And-
the drop was bigger, but what we're seeing is that on both stores, the tail is performing better,
A little better, yeah.
a little better, but the launch is way worse than it
Yeah.
was. For
The amount of time it would take to make up for that launch difference is a lot.
Yeah.
And so, that's where Play Pass came in for us, which is the actual way that we're making our revenue work from a mobile standpoint.
Yeah,
with
Play Pass
Crashlands
basically
2.
made it worth having put Crashlands 2 on to mobile. Yeah.
And I think that's largely what you see now, which is like if you're a premium game and you're not in one of the subscription services, then it's like you said, just ice skating uphill. Really, really a tough thing. And again, you're fighting all of the systems that the store has created systems, right, to try and make it possible for you to capture early interest. But they're very tailored to a particular kind of game. And so as a result, if you're not making that kind of game, then it is equivalent to you not even having those tools in the first place.
Yeah.
Really.
And we've had experiences too where we would be at GDC and we would be talking to somebody from Google or whatever. Like I remember when we were working on Crashlands, we chatted with somebody from Google Play, and like, yes, we get this game. We're wondering if we could talk about potential featuring or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, what's your expected DARPU, which is daily average revenue per user, right? And like immediately we're like, well, it's whatever the price of the game is. And he's like, oh, you're gonna sell it. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah.
Yep.
Right. Like it's almost like they're kind of like annoyed that people are trying to sell games,
Yeah. Well, those stores are run by MBA types, right?
right. Just number crunchers.
They're just
right?
looking at number go up. That's all they
Yeah, and so you do end up having then, especially lately, both stores have recognized that like you need to be good at selling premium games, otherwise you end up in a place where really like, it gets very. You have all the costs to like acquire new free players have gone up dramatically in the last like 5 years, right? To the point where it's still not really feasible unless you're
a
investing,
race
like,
to the
heavily.
bottom can't ever be successful long term.
Yeah, it doesn't really work. It's like so now they're like, oh, we're trying to kind of cobble something together that works. But our overall strat then on mobile is this time is to actually how can we shape this thing, given that we designed the game to be able to be shaped, right, up front. How do we shape it so that we can approach these markets in a way that actually works a little bit better with how they work? While also not, making a bunch of infrastructure and other decisions that end up costing us time and administrative overhead.
How to do it without having like two completely different versions of the game with two totally different
which is a
systems.
strategy you can take, and it's not a bad strategy. It's just an expensive strategy, right? So
yeah, well, that's why
so
I
we
want to
saw
walk through.
like
It's like
yeah.
if we go through kind of like the options here, because again, what we want to do is approach the markets in a way that works better than what we've done in the past.
But still do things the way we want to and try to find that balance.
Yeah, and so where we landed on like options, right? So one, of course, is the way we did it before. So just go premium, just say fuck it, try to get into Play Pass or something, and know that the launch is going to be trash, but hope that you can get to Play Pass, and then the subscription money will come eventually or whatever.
And because How Many Dudes is designed as a kind of game that you just kind of pick up and play anytime you're on a break, anytime you're doing anything, whatever, then it can perform really well in a subscription service, right? But that means like this model, selling it for premium, really means gotta get it into subscription services so we can get revenue out of the pool, basically.
And as we discussed, we kind of want to do something different this time. So option 2 would be to do something where it's like a free to try model. So you actually see this in some premium games that are coming from Steam. So a game like Loop Hero, which is big on Steam, is a free to try game on mobile. And then there's just a singular in-app purchase, right? To unlock it. There's no ads or anything. They didn't bother with that, right? Because you could, once it's a free game, you definitely could put some ads in there.
So in other words, it's the demo and the full game in one app.
Yeah.
Yes.
But more in line with expectations on the platform, because on the mobile platforms, people are more used to buying stuff through in-game stores than they are used to buying things in the store. And so having that internal unlock, bridging the gap between the demo content basically and the full game.
And that makes
more sense.
And that doesn't preclude you from doing Play Pass or anything like that. Because again, there's plenty of free games that are in that service. It's just so you unlock any IPs and stuff. So it's essentially, it just works the same, right? But actually lets you play with then the game being free, people being able to try it, whatever else. The third and fourth options are kind of similar ones, which are largely about splitting it and saying, okay, let's make a free version that is just the demo, right?
Yeah,
try doing
app,
that.
different SKUs,
totally different app.
IDs. It's a separate thing.
It is just a demo. We're not trying to sell anything within it, but we like somehow try to get attention with that and point to then the premium version.
Which of course is how it works on something like Steam. You have two separate.
Technically, yeah.
However, Steam actually treats them as part of the same game, and so your save data can carry over and stuff like that.
And also, if somebody played the demo, then you're going to see newsfeed items about the main game.
They can wishlist the
main game. It's all
you can link to that. You can do that.
And there's a whole culture of it for Steam players who understand the relationship between demos and full games.
Because Steam is like, we want to help you sell games.
Yeah.
And so they've set it up to make the demo be something that helps you sell the game.
So that, like, again, that's the one that actually looks the most similar from a dev standpoint, right? In terms of like architecturally, but actually from a market standpoint is
stores do not support that.
The stores don't support it. So again, you're fighting uphill again. So like, okay, fuck that. And then the last one would be to break it apart again. So do it, but treat it as a free to play version and then a paid premium version. So you actually do see this. I thought this was fascinating. Games like Brotato, even like Vampire Survivors kind of works in a similar way. They don't have two versions on the store, but basically where you actually make some fundamental changes to the game itself on mobile, present it as a free game, and then sort of like mobilize some of the monetization.
Free to play monetization.
So it's like, in Vampire Survivors, which there's just a free version. You can on mobile, you can watch an ad to like get a revive, right? All the DLC's there if you want to buy all the DLC, but it doesn't cost $5 out of the gate. So it's effectively a different price than it is on Steam, right? Or something like Brotato, literally two different versions and very different. Like there's a bunch of other things going on there where they're taking more advantage of the fact that it's like a free-to-play version of this, but also having the premium one live next to it, and then the premium one lives inside of Play Pass, right? Like,
so presumably they're getting most of their revenue for the premium version from Play Pass, probably,
right?
But there's really different dynamics depending on the popularity of a game, and like if people, because like Minecraft is going to be selling infinite units at base price, and also making infinite money, because I think it is in Play Pass, or at least has been, and also making infinite money in Play Pass. Which one is it making more? And I honestly couldn't guess.
It's just tons of money. It's just a torrent.
But I think for your average game, your average premium title, it's going to do better as a subscription thing than it's going to do in But direct sales probably.
So as we like pulled up references for all these and we're looking through the options and stuff, like, okay, we don't want to do just being premium again, because that again is just setting us up to fight against how all the stores work. And we're so tired of just fighting against how all the stores work instead of trying to bend things, right?
And it's the whole idea of how many dudes. Its whole thing is we're like, how do we make a game on purpose designed to be successful in the current market, right?
Yes.
So we just said we'll do that for Steam and then take whatever we did and be like, puh, here's all the other
Fuck it.
platforms.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't make any sense.
But that's also why we're very hesitant to add Rumpus into how many dudes.
Yeah.
Because so Rumpus is our cross-platform cloud syncing and sort of like achievement syncing thing. Problem is, platforms don't like it. They don't like when we point to other platforms. If you're on Google and we're like, hey, Steam exists, and Google's like, oh, I don't like this, right? Or if we want to put on PlayStation, we're like, yeah, we'll bring all your achievements over from
PlayStation
Steam,
really doesn't like it,
and then we'll bring them over to, and they're like, no,
you won't.
Apple Arcade doesn't allow it. It's not even that they don't like it.
and
There's
then,
not a path forward.
Yeah, Apple Arcade like fully locks down any online stuff. So then we had this weird thing where it's like, okay, we could do cross-platform syncing, but then like if you're playing on Apple Arcade, you can't, and then that's confusing. So it's like, all right, let's just not fuck with it, and we'll just
let everyone who's invested in whatever platform they like. There are all of them have their own cloud saving infrastructure now, right?
Yeah,
which importantly, none of
it's cross-platform because
correct.
Yeah,
but because of the diversity of like devices that people now have games on within the same actual like ecosystem. It's like with your iOS, you might have your phone, your tablet. If you're even on Steam now, you got a Steam Deck, and your PC. So like, whatever. Xbox Anywhere, like everything's an Xbox. Yeah, everything's kind of everything now. Whatever. We'll just use each platform's individual cloud service. We're not going to layer in our Rumpus stuff and add a layer of complication. And again, fight with every time we've done it, we've had to fight with the platforms every single time to make it so that it's like cool that we do cross-platform.
And it is much harder to do it also because we have to then deal with licensing and like make sure that when people log in with Rumpus, they're on a real version of the game and all this kind of stuff. That if we don't have that, we can just say, well, whatever. We'll just use whatever the platform is doing, and then it's fine.
So we're basically just throwing the towel on that, just like whatever. And again, the shape of How Many Dudes allows that because it's not like a story game. So it's like playing Slay the Spire on Steam and then on mobile. It's like you're just happy to play it again. You're like, well, fine, I think I do some progress. It's fine.
Yeah, and for some context too, like the reason we have Rumpus and before that Butterscotch ID, right, was we wanted a way because we started on mobile with this whole problem of you can't talk to your existing players, you can't roll success forward, you can't be like, ooh, we launched this new game, hey player of this other game, go play it, right? And so Butterscotch ID and Rumpus were an attempt to solve that by saying, let's give players a reason to give us their email address, basically, so that we can let them know when something has happened, when we've got a new game, when we've got whatever. So we can roll our own success forward. What we've seen over the past 10 years or whatever, it's 12 years. Yeah. Because we started in 2014, right, with Butterscotch ID. So we've been doing this for 12 years. And what we've seen over the time is that the platforms have locked down further and further. And because now so much of our strategy is driven by Steam, Steam players,
takes care of that.
They're not going to give you an email address. It's not going to happen. The Steam platform, like if you use it as a login mechanism, will not give you an email address. It never has, right? Nintendo used to give you an email address if you asked for it. If you use like sign in with Nintendo, doesn't anymore, right? The App Store used to. And then they added this weird like private bifurcation, and then they went one step further, made it so that each app has its own user ID, which means you can't even tell if it's the same user between apps. So all this fell apart.
Importantly, all these rules only apply to games. If you're if you download the Netflix app, sure, put your email address in, no problem, right? If you download Flop Rocket, no, you can't put your email address.
So everything basically like it got to the point where now, like with Crashlands 2's launch, right, where we have Rumpus, we basically added a huge number of new users into our Rumpus system, none of whom we can contact, even if it's for like a support issue, because we don't have any way. It's just all we have is their Steam ID, and that's it, right? So once we hit that point, we're like, okay, there's like no point in doing this, because also the crossover between platforms is like it's less than 10%, right? It's significant. It's like 5% or something like that, but
But we're
It's
trying to
pretty
not be
low.
playing on the margins.
Yeah.
This is what we did in the past, right?
It's a
Well,
costly way to
anytime
do it.
somebody's like, because we've talked in the past about how much it sucked, like to play Rocket League on Steam and then go get it on the Nintendo Switch, and there's no way to bring any of your data over, right? It's like, okay, starting over with like new cosmetics, new like no personal bests, no records, nothing. It's like, well, it's not that hard to do. On the back end of like uploading that data to a server and then downloading it again on another version of the app.
No, on the dev side, that fact of it is not hard.
It's a political problem. Like every platform hates this, and they do everything in their power to keep developers from offering this as a service to players.
Yeah.
And
Well, it
so
got
we're
messy so fast,
we're
too,
just
right? 'Cause-
tired, and we're just not
Yeah.
going to do it.
The original version, you just put in your email address, or I guess you signed up using an email address, got a username and password, and you signed in using that, right? That stopped being allowed on Apple first, and then that became a more problem elsewhere, because they were like, if you have a sign-in system for your own service, you have to allow our sign-in system to log people into it. Right? It became a requirement.
That was signed
Which is insane. It's so insane. But that became a requirement that, of course, if you're Blizzard, they just kind of somehow nobody notices that you're not following that quote unquote requirement, right? But if you're us, we're rejected from.
As always, the rules apply to people who aren't making $1 billion a year. And if you are making $1 billion a year, do whatever the fuck you want. Nobody cares.
So now you end up like, if just to wrap it up, if you ever use Rumpus, if you go to like our website, go to bscotch.net and go to log in, look how many methods there are to log into your account, right? Because we had to do an integration of login methods for everything that we were on, and got that stuff. So yeah, at base, really easy to be like, give me an email address and you've got an account now. Trivial stuff you got to do to make sure you're keeping that stuff safe, but even that, pretty easy,
hard. Yeah.
right? But the moment you have to follow all the rules of your platform, whew,
it's like an insane
it's a
logic
nightmare.
puzzle.
So we're not
Never
doing it with
been
how many
nightmare.
dudes. At least we don't plan on it.
And again, the shape of the game is part of the design. The shape supports it. If you play it
And
on
there
Steam,
also, if we wanted
it's
to,
fine.
there are other ways to do it. Like I was playing Cookie Clicker for a bunch this summer for whatever reason. I was like, "What is this game like again?" I forgot, and it was on mobile, so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it on mobile." And they just have like an export and import button where you can just like export your save,
just as a string copy.
just as a file, and then
Paste
you can
it in.
import it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we could easily add something like that. Well, I don't know, maybe not that easily, but there's a lot of data on how many dudes.
Yeah, the point
If
being,
you want
like,
to,
you can still get the outcomes that you need if you're trying to provide a service where you're like, hey, I want to make sure that you can get your data. I'm not saying we're going to do it. I'm just saying
It's
you
not-
don't have
it's
to
just-
have the infrastructure to make it happen.
So basically we're trying to not fight with all the stores, just roll with whatever they got and find a way forward. Then that lets us take advantage of the stuff instead of just kind of grumbling and arguing with them about everything. So to that end, and kind of, I guess where we ended up is going to be attempting the free to try model, which to us feels the same as like a demo on Steam, right? Because it is you can just go play the game for free. It'd be the kind of same setup.
Yeah.
And that's where then the launch, like the shape of the launch thing, it gets interesting because originally,
Because we should say what we would want to do, ideally. Is
Exactly,
do
yeah,
what we're
yeah.
doing on Steam. Just like go ahead and right now.
and just
Put it-
have it
put it
have it
out.
out, right?
Just have it up. Yeah.
The challenge is that if we were to do it the same we're doing on Steam, where we just there's already the demo out, because it's not actually a demo, right? Because again, there's no separation of these things on the store. It's just now it would just then be like How Many Dudes demo title, but it's just a free game. And that has a different thing going on with it, right? Where it's like, that means that we've technically already launched the game.
Yeah, the game is launched. Yep.
And from a player standpoint, again, there's not the same culture of like understanding that there's a difference between necessarily like a demo, final product, whatever else.
Because you're kind of saying if we launched it for free as a demo on mobile right now, and then
basically
later
at launch updated it to the full version with the in-game unlock. that
Exactly,
gives
which
you
was the
rest content.
original plan, right? That was the original thinking.
Yeah.
Then the issue is that because of how like the shape of the store still, again, and the culture there means that it's hard to know, one, for us, if we'd be able to successfully, say, reach out to all the people who are currently playing the game.
Well, we know
Right.
we can't actually. We know
I feel like there's like events or notifications. There's like ways of doing things, but like
each store has things, right? But none of them are equivalent to like what Steam's got, right?
Right. Like the launch, everybody gets an email sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so because of that, we can't we wouldn't be able to roll forward in the same way we roll from Steam, where it's like everyone who's wishlisting the game from playing the demo, we get an email for on launch day. If we launch a mobile version where it's just a demo as a free game right now, upgraded later, it's not possible, so far as we could tell, to basically ping everybody who played it, who did download it and played it in that intervening time, and let them know that the 1.0 exists and point them to like the 1.0 unlock. And then further, because it's not clear, because we'd be launching the game, then it's not clear from a store standpoint if we'd be able to get like featuring again
when we
once the actual
the full
1.0
version.
happens.
Yeah, and also presumably the algorithms behave the way they do everywhere else, which is they treat the launch as a unique thing, push visibility, and then kick in negative feedback loops. So we're going to be fighting upstream again at launch time to get visibility.
Right. So we're like, okay, so
there's one final bit too that I think is the most important, which is if we think that most of our money is going to be coming from Play Pass or subscriptions in general, right? Then, and again, because this is different because on Steam, there are people who play demos.
Yes.
And there are the vast majority of Steam players who do not, right? And so we're basically getting to treat the demo as this kind of like, it's basically a beta testing platform that also allows for this kind of marketing awareness, right? But we don't have to worry and be like, oh no, like literally everybody on Steam who would play it will have played it by the time we launch. Right.
Not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Yeah. Culturally, it won't happen. On mobile, if we launch a free game, that's a free game. That's what happens on mobile. It's done. We launched a game, right? And so we run the risk there of not only that, of like, we run the success risk in a different way. Right. Where if the game actually takes off to its full potential on mobile, that will happen
when we cannot make any money.
When we can't make any money off of it.
Yeah. And because there's nothing to buy yet and no ads, because we're not planning doing ads, then it couldn't possibly be in Play Pass at that time either. So we definitely can't, there's like no money anywhere.
All that play time that may have converted into Play Pass revenue, right? If we had done it at launch, it's gone forever because subscription services, or at least many of them, pay out based on basically relative playtime of all the things in the portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So then
the whole strategy does hinge on the current unknown for us, which is getting into Play Pass, right? So that's not locked in or anything. It's not like we have that in the bag. So it's the sort of thing where like there's enough uncertainty there, both with even if we did it in the first place versus like just needing to have some other business stuff lined up before we launch, that we're like, okay, I guess we can't treat it exactly the same. Right? We do have to kind of split our strat to match the storefronts. But again, importantly, with how many dudes, with the shape of it, we can do that. And so our current plan then is to, after all this like exploration, is to do the free to try with an in-app purchase unlock for the full price of the game, or perhaps some split up like IAP version of that, dude packs, whatever. We haven't figured out the exact details of that, but essentially it would be the same price.
Basically just trying to figure out what would people prefer. Like would people rather
pay like $3, get a few more dudes, and then pay another $3? I don't know.
Yeah. Like people rather have it piecemeal where they choose which dudes to unlock, a few bits at a time, or is it just like a full? Because the other weird thing which we were kind of talking about is if it's a probabilities thing. So it's kind of like you got a deck of cards, right? Each dude is a card. As you add more cards to the deck, then it changes the probabilities of what you can draw from the deck, right? And so
it changes the overall balance of the whole experience.
Yeah. Which is already a thing is just going to happen for the 1.0. We know.
Right. Then it gets even weirder if you've got people like piecemeal purchasing.
Right, because we can control for it. If there's two versions, if there's the demo version with what it has and the full version with what it has, then we can
make sure it feels good.
We can bridge that because we have two things we have to solve in terms of like context, right? And each time we add new content, if that's just being added
it's
to
just
the
updated
game
for everybody, and it's the same
for everybody, then again we can balance that and make that work. But if we are adding stuff via like arbitrarily choosable, this is true even post launch if we wanted to do DLCs, right? Of like, we'll have some dude packs you can buy that are outside of the whole game, right, or whatever.
Dude packs.
Dude pack. It's a thing we could do because the game
the shape
support
works.
it from how it's shaped, right? Yeah. But from a balance standpoint, it creates interesting complications.
So it's basically a question of like
we're leaning toward that like full unlock with one purchase,
right? But again,
Fair.
largely because the assumption is that most of the revenue we would get would be from players in a subscription service, right? Given that most people also don't buy like a full unlock of a game at like $15 from within it. They'll typically buy like these smaller increments, So it's one of those things where it's like we go back and forth on that, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we'll do that and we'll launch. It'll just be a launch thing. It's not going to be a thing that we have a version out early. We don't have a demo out on mobile because of all the stuff we discussed. So that's essentially where
we won't have a demo out on mobile before launch.
Before launch.
Yeah, once we launch, the mobile version is the demo, and you buy the full game within it.
Inside it. Yep.
Yeah, but I think this is
Kind
also
of an
interesting. This is an interesting benefit because we've been talking about our whole like demo first strategy with how many dudes and how like essential that's been, and also just how many things it has simplified. Some of which we knew, some of which we weren't really thinking about at the time, right? But it's one of the things that we weren't really thinking about at the time was simplifying just access to press, influencers, or whatever. If the demo is just there, they can go play it. We don't have to manage keys. Nobody has to ask us. If somebody hears about it from a friend, if somebody hears about it from their chat, they could be like, "What is this?" Download and play, right?
And so we just this morning. There's a PC Gamer article came out.
Yep. We didn't send anybody a key. Whatever.
I didn't ask.
So it removes that barrier, and then this is the next thing that we weren't really thinking about because when we first started, how many dudes we were like, we want to make sure we have room for this existing on mobile, but we weren't thinking of it as being on mobile at first, right? But the other thing that the demo approach works with this whole like the demo version is a game, and then you unlock like the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
Is that also put us in a good spot to basically not have to do too much of weird stuff to basically say like, let's make this more native for mobile because it's already the right shape. Again, there's still some stuff you probably want to do because people are going to see a $15 price point in game and be like, oh, it seems like a lot. But if they see 5 $3 price points that they could choose or the bundle, all of a sudden $15 doesn't seem like any money at all. It's like there's like weird stuff we may have to do, right?
We could bother with, from like
we could choose to,
but
to
also
like, to make it better. But at base, it
would probably just work. Yeah. And so that's basically where we've ended up. And like part of the reason we like talking about how we're thinking about these things is because I think one of the things that's oftentimes really hard to kind of calculate after the fact. You see, like as an indie dev, you're making stuff and you're trying to position it such that given the shape of the game, given the shape of the market, that it makes sense in there and that it's able to take advantage of stuff and not fight against everything. But most of what you see in terms of games that are successful is like you just see survivorship bias, right? Where it's like the game was already shaped oftentimes to be very effective in a particular market. Like those are almost all the games that you're going to see that are breakout hits. The shape of the game itself is really, really important for making it possible for it to be a breakout hit, regardless of all the decisions made about like art, about specific design details or else. And it's really easy to get lost in those and pick apart those and think that like those specific decisions they made are somehow the ones that like drove it to be a huge success, when in reality it's oftentimes like the fact of the overarching shape of the thing allows for certain maneuvers to be done that if the game was a different shape just like wouldn't work or would produce a lot more friction. And so I think we had
kind of talked about how we were looking at the Balatro timeline, and what the Balatro dev did was they made a demo, saw that like it started to generate some wish lists, but not that many. It was like a couple thousand over a month. Reconfigured the demo to have this sort of uncapped playtime but limited content, and then they were getting like 10 or 20,000 wish lists in a month, right? And so again, that's kind of that like even though Balatro kind of pushed against certain conventions in other ways, like being a card game on Steam, pretty tough, right? Right. But it is also a roguelike.
Nobody would have guessed at Balatro. Like if they had seen Balatro and heard it was coming to Steam, like nobody would have looked at it and been like, "This is going to be
this is going to go crazy." On
Steam,
right? But people who played the demo probably were like, "This is going to go crazy."
Yeah.
Right. And then really, I think once it came to mobile, it started taking off. But they didn't do kind of like we were talking about. Like I don't think there's a free Balatro demo. Like so again, like that game did well enough, but you can't really branch the universe and say, well, what would it have done on mobile as a free game?
Well, and they did launch it into. I think the reason they did is because they launched it in Apple Arcade,
and it's on Apple Arcade. Yeah.
Well, they didn't launch it into Play Pass. Play Pass came later.
Right.
They launched it in Apple Arcade, and they were probably just planning on coming to Play Pass, right? Because with that game, Again, like How Many Dudes? It's a game that people just play it every day for a while, right? It's perfectly designed.
It's a good downtime
for
game, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's for a subscription service basically, right? That's its sweet spot. And so it didn't really matter. I think because with Blotcher already had enough success.
They came after.
They didn't need to
the mobile
min-max.
approach came after. They're not simultaneously shipping like we're trying to do.
Yeah, they didn't need to min-max what they were doing on mobile, and
Right.
because again, they presumably were working on a deal with Apple like the moment they launched on the PC. So they already knew, like, yeah, we don't have to futz with this. Like, the game's going to come out, people will play it a lot. It's going to perform really well on a subscription service that's pays out based on playtime. So we can just not worry about it, right?
The difference for us being that, one, we want the attention to be able to be magnified by word of mouth, right? So if someone hears about it, they can go check it out. And two, is it because we're not guaranteed anything on, or frankly, Google or Apple, which just means that it should be possible for us, even if let's say we manage to get into Play Pass, we may not get into Apple Arcade ever. So we still want to have the App Store version of the game be able to be successful, like in a different kind of a way than our previous stuff. So it's not really an option for us because we're not setting up those deals ahead of time, right? To just be like, well, it's $5 or $10, whatever, deal with it. So yeah, I guess that's the strat, for trying to get this thing to work everywhere. And I think it's useful to be able to see how devs are actually thinking through different options and like why they might fit or not fit. And I feel like you don't see a lot of it in the moment, where then you get to, in a couple of months we'll look back and have to be like, well, this is a fucking terrible idea, or that worked, that worked for them. And you get to see a little bit of the thinking behind it. You just don't get to do that a lot, most of it's post-hoc.
And everything has pros and cons, also in the sense that, there's a worry that making a game free with a paid unlock can result in the U-shaped review score problem, which is like what happened with Super Mario Run, which was like, you download the game for free, you play it for a while, and then at some point, like, you got to buy the full game to get whatever is the,
But those ones typically have a wall. So that's actually a good example, which is like, because I was looking at, I think it was Loop Hero, and I think you could just kind of keep playing it on the free side before you do the full upgrade.
Yeah, did Super Mario Run have
it had a wall? It was like once
I know it was
you got
a $10 wall too, which at the time that it launched felt
crazy,
really expensive.
Yeah. It was a wall. It was like
endless runners were kind of played out at that point too. As people are like, I mean, $10 for an endless runner. I mean, come on. So, but again, there's kind of that, like, you want to make sure that you set up the game in a way that doesn't make people feel like you're taking something away by having that paid unlock. It needs to feel like you're giving them the opportunity to support the game and get more for a fair price, right? As opposed to like, I can't play this game that I want until I pony up cash, right? And so it's a line to walk every time, but I think How Many Dudes is set up in such a way that it'll be totally fine.
Yeah, we can walk it.
So yeah. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode. Hope everybody found that interesting, thinking about mobile strategy. We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa DaCosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And of course, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam and pick up the How Many Dudes demo, give it a play, tell us what you think. I hope you have a good time. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.